Thank you. Makes it easy.
If you can stand up front with Ivan, and I'll get it.
Aren't you son? Phil, you and Ginger. just say it.
Filter behind everybody. We might have some folks.
I'm so used to seeing him with a big
I know I made him take his hat off.
wow.
He took his hat off.
That's his
Look,
signature.
I've been taking orders for him for 53 years. This is my one day to get him
Just in time.
Let's roll up.
How's everybody? That's mine, Jack. Can you say hello? Okay. So Nick.
Good.
Nick. I'm running.
So Councilman Cohen's going to go first. You don't need to start. I'm going to address the media, let them know that when you take questions, we're going to go from one side to the last. Councilman, you can get yeah, I'm going to write it down. Let me ask Ivan.
Senator, come out. There we go. You're
All right,
here in the
so-
new
The way that this is going to work, we're going to have 4 speakers, and Ivan is going to speak last. He's going to take questions at the end, and it'll go from one end all the way down. All right, so everyone, final mic check. Make sure your audio is good. We're ready to get started. We can go live. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for coming today. We have a host of individuals here who are going to be speaking today right before Ivan Bates, who, as of Friday night, officially received the Democratic nomination for state's attorney here in the city. So it's been a long campaign, but it's not over yet. We appreciate everyone coming out. And to get us started, to say a few words, we're going to start off with 1st District Councilman Zeke Cohen.
So, my name is Zeke Cohen. I represent Baltimore's 1st District, and I can tell you that Baltimore breathed a collective sigh of relief when we found out that Ivan Bates was going to be our next state's attorney. Baltimore is in a moment of uncertainty. We know we have real challenges in our city. We know violence has been a constant over the past few years, and we know that there is one person that is positioned to take this office and completely transform it and make it into something that is not only functional, but that is effective. And that is what Ivan Bates is uniquely positioned to do. What Ivan has been able to do during this campaign is to build a broad coalition of people. Folks who may not, in any other circumstance, have agreed on everything are standing here before you. And I do want to take a quick moment to recognize there are a lot of elected officials. So I'm going to quickly, former Councilman Carl Stokes, Comptroller Bill Henry, Corey McCrae, Senator, my colleague, Councilman Yitzi Schleifer. We've got Ms. Conaway. We've got Mr. Bates. We'll talk about you in a minute. We've got former State's Attorney Greg Bernstein. We've got Judge Hurd. We've got Mayor Dixon. Did I miss anybody? Okay, great. So we look. This is a broad coalition of Baltimoreans, and that's what Ivan Bates has been able to do. He's been able to unite the city. Let me say this. We know that Ivan is going to make sure that folks who commit acts of violence in our city are no longer on our streets. We know that far too often we've seen the same people terrorizing our communities and then right back out the next day to do it again. Ivan is going to put an end to all of that. Ivan has the ability to bring together prosecutors from all across Baltimore and really all across the United States. I was at a polling place for the election, and I was with a former ASA who had worked briefly for Ms. Mosby and then had left the office. And I asked her, you know, what's your next step? And she said, if Ivan Bates becomes state's attorney, I'm going back to work for him. So it is my fundamental belief that given the shortage of assistant state's attorneys, given what has happened to this office, which is in disarray, Ivan is the only person who is going to bring talent across the city to unite and rebuild that office. And he's going to do it in partnership with all of us. Because here's what's different about Ivan Bates. It's not really about Ivan Bates. It's about the movement that he's built. It's about his intelligence. It's about his compassion for people. And it's about Baltimore. He is going to put this city first. And here's the other thing that I love about Ivan Bates. Ivan Bates does not want to be the mayor of Baltimore. Ivan Bates does not want to be the governor of Maryland. Ivan Bates wants to be the state's attorney of this city, and we need that right now. Let me just conclude by saying this. There are going to be moments where we're going to disagree on policy, but what I know is that we're going to have a partner, a real partner in the state's attorney's office. That when Councilman Schleifer and I are dealing with difficult situations in our districts, that when we see issues with officers, issues with violence, that Ivan is going to be there and that he is going to work directly with us and work directly with community. Ivan is going to make sure that in partnership with me and with the city's trauma-informed care task force, that the entire office is trained in trauma-informed care, because the way that we treat victims matters, and we have not treated victims well enough in this city. Ivan is also going to make sure that if you commit an act of violence, you will be taken off of our streets. We cannot continue to have it. And so I want to, from the bottom of my heart, and on behalf of the Baltimore City Council, my colleagues, and everyone else in this city, I want to say thank you to Ivan for stepping up, for believing in Baltimore, and for being the best darn state's attorney, no disrespect, Mr. Bernstein, for being the best state's attorney we will ever see in the city of Baltimore. We need it, and look, we are very, very, very proud of this man right here. It is now my great honor to introduce one of our former great state's attorneys. He's still great. He's still great. And he was here throughout this thing, and he put his shoulder into this campaign. And so someone who has been a mentor to many in Baltimore, Mr. Greg Bernstein.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It is a great day. It is a great day for the city of Baltimore, and I don't have to say it, but I will because we all know it. You know, when it comes to public safety, the city's in crisis. We're well on our way yet again to exceed 300 homicides, which is way, way too many. Not to mention all the other violent crime that's going on in our city. And you know, I often say this. We talk about the criminal justice system. And in point of fact, there really is no criminal justice system. What there are silos, if you will. There's the police department, there's City Hall, there's the state's attorney's office, there's juvenile services, there's parole and probation. And the way in which we can effectively fight crime and make our city safer is by working collaboratively, by leaving egos at the door, rolling up our sleeves, and working in unison to solve what appear to be intractable problems but which I believe firmly are not and ones we can solve. That's why I have supported Ivan Bates from the beginning, because Ivan understands that. He wants to do this job, as Councilman Cohen said. He wants to do this job, and he understands how important it is to work collaboratively with our law enforcement partners in a way that is effective in fighting crime. He will be committed 100%. He has the sense of urgency that is necessary and needed to reduce crime in this city. But I will say, and I want to be clear, there is much, much work to be done. There is much work to be done, and it's going to take time and effort to accomplish the kinds of things that Ivan has set out to do. These are intractable problems that are not going to be solved overnight. And we need to be patient, and we need to let him build his team to start the process of turning this ship around and making Baltimore safe. That's why I'm supporting Ivan Bates. It's a great day. I cannot tell you how happy I am that you were elected. Congratulations. It is really, I'm just honored, my great pleasure and honor to introduce our next speaker, former Mayor Sheila Dixon.
Thank you, Greg. And since Greg said a lot of what I was going to say,
Well, you told me to say.
and since the councilman, you know, when you're in elected office, you tend to talk a lot. But let me say this. First and foremost, Baltimore is a great city. Baltimore has all the ingredients to be successful. And this election has told us, the citizens of Baltimore, that it's time to move on to a new chapter. And in this new chapter that we move into, it's not just about the role of the state's attorney. Because believe me, when Ivan asked me to support him, and he knew initially I was hesitant, I wasn't going to get involved in this state's attorney's race, or any race, actually. I was going to enjoy my summer. But I also knew what it took to have a state's attorney working collaboratively with the court system, with juvenile justice, with the police department, with all of our public safety entities, in order to get out of this hole that we are currently in, that I know we don't have to be in. But it is about removing egos. It's about understanding your role in the process that it's going to take. But it's also about being able to work with people across this city and hear what their cries are and their concerns are. You know, we can stand here and say that quality of life issues are not important. It is important across this city, no matter what the community is. Now, Ivan has a lot of big shoes to fill, because we've had a lot of great state's attorneys. But I know that Ivan is up for the job. Ivan's going to make the kind of difference that's needed, but he's not going to do it alone. And he has to understand that. He's going to have to bring together a talented, professional team of people who are committed to this city and understand that working for the state's attorney's office is just not about trying to reduce crime and eliminate cases, but it's about looking at where we're structurally broken and what we need to do to fix what's going on in this city. And so I am really happy and excited to have supported Ivan and to be here. And as we move into the general election, to get more people out to vote, because that's going to be key, but to also be able to be here and be a voice and a soundboard for Ivan, because I know what it took back when I was mayor to have a great state's attorney, along with working with the courts, along with working with the governor and the various agencies, to be able to reduce crime. But when we move into this new chapter, and it's important that people understand this, we need consistency, and we need to look at what works and what doesn't work, and we need to build on those things and not throw it out because it was somebody else's idea, but to really build on what was working and what was great. And so I am very excited and happy to be here. And I'm really excited that Ivan won this election. And it gives me great pleasure as Ivan raises his daughter and helps to take care of his dad who's here and other family members, that he knows how to balance his life, because that's what it takes. He's a human being, so he's not going to be this superhero, but he's going to be the kind of person and leader that's going to be humbled and that understand what his role is, as well as be able to balance and take care of his family so they can grow into a city that I know can be a safe city. So at this point, I'm going to introduce Ivan Bates, our next state's attorney.
First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody that came here. Without a doubt, you have to walk in faith, and I want to thank Jesus Christ for blessing me with the support, the system, the family. I want to especially thank my father who's here. As you know, my mother passed last year. My father and I home hospiced her. It was difficult. It was a really difficult time period. And I wish she could be here, but I know she's looking down. I want to thank Madam State's Attorney, Ms. Mosby. She reached out. We had a very kind and gracious conversation. At the end of the day, no matter what, she is a tenacious fighter. And her belief, she stands firm and fights, and that's admirable. I want to thank Mr. Vignaraja. We had a nice conversation as well. He truly loves this city. I want to thank the citizens who voted. I want to thank those supporters. I want to thank everybody that's taken the opportunity, because we love this city. At the end of the day, we are in this together. I want to thank all the supporters who are here standing behind me, the elected officials, from Comptroller Bill Henry to State Senator Corey McCray, to Councilman Yitzi Slifer, to Councilmember Zeke Cohen, the former Councilmember Carl Stokes, to Registrar of Wills, Belinda Conaway, to former Chief Judge Wanda Hurd, who I had the pleasure of being in front of many times as a young prosecutor.
And she's still supporting me.
And she's still supporting me. To former State's Attorney Greg Bernstein and former Mayor Sheila Dixon. You know, when you look around, you see the support that you have. It's amazing. And that'll be the type of administration that I have. I believe in collaborative working relationships. This isn't about me. This is about we and about us. The first thing you have to do is you have to adjust the attitude. When you adjust the attitude, we can work from there. Because right now, Baltimore, we're in our silos. We're fighting, but we're not fighting together. We fight together, we can win together. At the end of the day, everybody wants a safer city. We knocked on over 15,000 doors. We went to over 30 faith institutions, house of worship. We talked to the voters, to the citizens. The number of older adult buildings that we spoke to was absolutely staggering. Thank you, Ms. Mays. And what I learned as I spoke to thousands and thousands of voters, everybody wanted the same thing. And yes, I have been absolutely blessed with having the awesome task of being the state's attorney for Baltimore City. And my job as the chief law enforcement officer is to keep everybody safe. Every single person I spoke to, I will take you with me when we go into that office. The cries, the sadness, the hope, the thousands of calls and text messages I've already received. Hearing that a voter who was 105 years old voted for me because after hearing me speak, she wanted to ensure that her vote was heard. Those are the things that mean a great deal to me. I could not have done this, and we, more importantly, could not have done this without the support. And your voice has been heard. There will be change in our city. I will also put on notice the violent repeat offenders. While I'm state's attorney, and I just have to get through the general, you will be held accountable, and you will go to jail. We will give certainty of consequences. We will look around the country to understand other programs that work. We're not going to go back to mass incarceration, but there will be accountability at all levels. And that includes me as well. I ask for your patience, and I ask for your support. At the end of the day, we will get this together. We will have a safer city, and we will make sure we do the job that you elected me to do. Thank you very much.
All right, everybody, so we are going to start on...
Oh, go. Well, he's telling us right there.
I was going to say, we're just going to start on the right side and go left. So, Maddie, if you had any questions.
Sure, yeah, you talked about accountability. Can you talk about what measures, what metrics you plan to use to measure success and tell the city that you are succeeding at the goals that you've set out in this campaign?
Well, I think a couple things we have to look at. First of all, I have to rebuild the office. So, going to trial. And we will be invoking a number of the 5 minimum mandatories. So that right there is a measure of beginning success. Now, will we win every trial right away? No. That's the working relationship with the police department to put better cases together. But we are putting the criminal element on notice. It's no more probation. We win, you will go to prison, and for a significant amount of time. But also what happens is will the community begin to feel safer. In my prosecution plan, I talked about a data board where you'll be able to measure the cases we have. Also includes no process and steps, especially in the circuit court level. We need to make sure that we have real, thorough cases that are together before we just charge anybody. I also want to make sure that the charges fit the crime appropriately. Is it a second-degree murder? Is it a manslaughter? And why are we necessarily going to charge first-degree murder? But those are types of things that I'll sit down, I'll talk to my team with. But right now, we have to make sure that the citizens feel safer and that you will see a change day one in that office. Thank you.
You just mentioned you need to rebuild the office. You said throughout the campaign that you had people that were ready to work for you. Do you have anybody in mind to be your chief deputy? I mean, do you already have those slots picked out in your head who's going to lead your administration?
Well, I've had a lot of people reach out, And right now, I just want to take the time, talk to everybody. I want to talk to the team. There are a number of people who've gone through this process, and I haven't. One of the things that I'm about building consensus. Just because I want to do something, it may not be the best thing for the office. So I need to take the time to understand what the talent level is out there and who's really willing to come and work. And based on that, I will go ahead and make that decision. So to answer your question is no.
How would you what is your immediate violent crime reduction plan? How would you beef up prosecutions? How would gun court work? And how will you boost supervision of those convicted of gun crimes?
Which question would you like an answer?
You want all of them. I know. Well, look, I put together a prosecution plan, and it was put together also. Brooks, who's here, she helped clearly write and put a lot of work into that. And based on that, one of the things that I talk about is, yes, the gun court. I know Councilman Stokes has talked about gun court, but gun court to me is getting the judges to say, hey, if you are charged with an illegal handgun, that we're going to place those cases in a courtroom, that the prosecutors are prepared to proceed as quickly as possible. One. Number two, when you look at what's going on, we have to take cases to trial and we have to win. That's the biggest thing. Having been a criminal defense attorney, I can tell you this. My former clients, the jurisdictions where individuals knew they were going to go to prison for a long time, they thought twice before they did some of those actions. We have to make sure they recognize in Baltimore City they will be held accountable. So when I talk about that, a number of cases you have felon in possession of a handgun. That pretty much means if you're a prior felony, and now you have an illegal handgun in your possession. The minimum mandatory is 5 years, and maximum is 15. No matter what happens, if the state decides to call the minimum mandatory, then that means the least amount of jail time an individual can get, 5 years without parole. That means we need to start calling those counts, and we need to start going to trial. Once you go to trial and you win, now that individual is facing up to 15 years. We have to do that, and we also have to have a more collaborative working relationship with the U.S. Attorney's Office through what's called SALSA, state's attorneys who are now working as U.S. attorneys, to send individuals that qualify for enhanced penalties to the federal side to hold them accountable. It's not one thing, it's a number of things that we have to do. We have to work close with the police and the police commissioners so the officers know when they risk their life to make a gun arrest or car stop, that we will prosecute those individuals who are violating the law. A lot of it is just going to be attitude and making sure that we enforce the laws that are already on the books.
Ivan, how do you wish to address the squeegee kids that's in the city? Squeegee workers, I should say.
Well, I think I've been pretty clear. The squeegee workers, they cannot be there. It's not safe for them. It's not safe for the drivers. So we have to sit down with the mayor's office, and I do have a plan that I've talked about. And my plan has been pretty specific in the sense the first thing I have to do is recall the non-prosecution policies of Ms. Mosby's office. The next thing you have to get, hopefully, the police department to recall their general order that talks about the interaction and having some of the senior officers say whether or not the officers can interact. Once we do that, we have to file the consent decree to give the initial warning. There will be citations. And I want to have community court in the district court so the individual receives citations and they'll be directed to community court and the district court for the low-level offenses. Low-level offenses such as stepping off the sidewalk, going in and out of traffic, that's illegal. You cannot do that. And once the individual squeegee workers in community court, there'll be a decision. Either they wish to be prosecuted, which we don't want to do, but it's an option, or they will agree to go on the diversionary program that Mayor Scott has already put together. It's about the collaborative working relationship. And if individuals are juvenile, then we're going to make sure we direct them to the services that they need, specifically educational services. One of the things we realize is the educational system in our city has failed too many of our children. And we need to make sure they're directed, and sometimes a little push in the back to make sure they're going to the educational system so they can have the services that they need.
Have you talked to the mayor's office about those specific plans?
Nothing in depth. I've spoken to the mayor and everything. We will sit down at the appropriate time to have more in-depth conversations. I have to be focused on what my job will be, but my job will make sure that I protect the citizens. But in just talking to the mayor, I think there are a lot of commonalities that we do share, and it's just how we achieve our goals.
There are some differences, though. I mean, the mayor has said that he doesn't want to crack down on squeegee kids. He doesn't want to press charges. He doesn't want the streets cleared of them. You've said it's a priority for you to get them cleared and get them cleared quickly. Do you plan to move forward with that, even without the support of the mayor's office?
Well, I think the mayor and I have to sit down and have a more in-depth conversation. I think sometime having been in the criminal justice world and criminal justice field, what some of the nuances I look at from a different point of view. I understand what the mayor is saying. I understand no one wants to see the corners cleared like it had been an abuse that we've seen prior to now. However, I think there's a way to do it that isn't about necessarily clearing the corners, but it still allows us to make sure these individuals are no longer there.
So you think you'd be able to come to a compromise and change his mind?
I do believe we'll be able to come to a compromise.
Okay, and then I did have one more question. So Mr. Cohen had said that Marilyn Mosby, she might want to work for you. Would you allow her to join your team?
Oh, no.
Go back to work for him.
No. He said another prosecutor.
Someone who had worked for Ms. Mosby.
Okay, I missed it.
Yeah, and then, no, I do not, she has not communicated that to me.
A
former assistant state's attorney communicated to me that if Ivan won, that was the only way in which she would come back to the office. My point is that there's a lot of people like that, and we're about to see it.
Yes, that's for sure.
You talked about some plans that you have in terms of invoking certain mandatory minimums and rescinding your predecessor's non-prosecution policy for certain offenses. How do you square that with your statement saying we're not going to go back to mass incarceration?
Well, I think you had mass incarceration was tough on crime. Then I think we've had soft on crime. I'd like to say I'm going to be smart on crime. Individuals you have to hold accountable. It's the level of accountability that we look at. And so when you have an individual, you have to get the message out that certain actions won't be tolerated. And right now, as the chief law enforcement officer, I recognize in the criminal justice system the best way to carry that out. Thank you. Well, I think, I really appreciate everybody. It's a little hot in here. I want to thank everybody who came out to support me. And I just thank everybody, the citizens, for at this moment in time. We still have the general election. And I thank the citizens for entrusting me at this level. And everybody continue to be safe and try to enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
put some big picture on yours.
Okay, that's great.
Real 35,000.
All right, just text me.